Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. As you can tell by the title of the video, today we're going to be talking all about personal questions in the MMI. If you haven't checked out my last video, you should definitely go check it out because I talked all about ethical scenarios and I actually made a document of my specific approach to ethical scenarios, how I would organize my answers, things that I think are worthy to mention, and that document is linked in the description box of that ethical scenario video, so I'll link that in the description box below. But make sure to watch the video because I go into a lot more detail. But yeah, today's gonna be all about personal questions, which are my favorite because I feel like this is where you can showcase who you are and what separates you from literally everyone else being interviewed. So yeah, I'm also going to talk a little bit about quirky questions at the end and how to approach those. So if you are interested, then just keep watching. So if you guys see me looking down, it's just because I have my iPad and I have notes on it just to make sure that I don't miss anything. So when it comes to personal questions, these are the questions where they're gonna ask you about you. So tell me about a time when you encountered a challenge. Tell me about a time you were a leader, etc., etc. So the first thing that you wanna do when it comes to personal questions is reflect on all of your experiences. And I know everybody says this and you're probably sick of hearing it, but it's very true. You want to make sure that you really think about everything that you've experienced in life, not only in terms of academics or career, but also just in terms of personal experiences, things that you went through before you start tackling these personal questions. Now, in my opinion, it's not enough just to think about these experiences. You need to be able to frame them in a way that's going to be useful to the evaluator. They all want to pull something meaningful from it, so you need to make it as easy as possible for the evaluator to do that. And this is exactly how you do that. So for all of these experiences you think about, everything you went through, you want to be able to match that with a CanMed's PA role or any other quality that you think is going to be beneficial to being a PA. So if you haven't seen the CanMed's PA competencies, I highly recommend that you check them out. I'll link them in the description box below, and basically these are a list of qualities that the Canadian Association of Physician Assistants wants all PAs to have in order to be great PAs. I wouldn't limit yourself to the CanMed's PA roles though, because there are so many other qualities that make really great PAs. So for example, empathy, or maybe resourcefulness, flexibility, all of these other qualities are really great and applicable to the PA roles. So if you had an experience where you had to demonstrate any of those roles, definitely incorporate that as well. So you definitely want to be able to kind of visualize this and organize this a little bit so it's not so jumbled up in your head. Some people like to make spreadsheets where they write all about their experiences and all about the CanMed's roles and things like that. For me, that just took way too much time. So what I did was I literally just printed off my academic CV and I just wrote some of the CanMed's roles and other qualities right next to those experiences, and that worked really well for me. And so that was kind of my way of organizing things. I would also say don't limit yourself to just your CV or your resume though. You'll also want to think about personal things you went through in your life. So for example, for me, I cared for someone who was very sick at one point. That experience taught me a lot, so I definitely jotted that down as well. Another thing that people don't necessarily mention a lot, which I think that you 100% should, is your unique hobbies. Hobbies are great to talk about because hobbies are very unique to you. If you think about it, most applicants that want to get into healthcare are pretty similar. Everybody has stellar stats, everybody has some kind of experience in healthcare, or most applicants do. And although those things are really great to talk about in your interview, those things are things that a lot of people are going to have, and so they're not necessarily going to separate you as much as a unique hobby would. Highlight anything that makes you unique. Your hobbies, cultural traditions, anything that's unique to you. Maybe you paint, maybe you play an instrument. Any of those things are really great to talk about because they make you unique. So after you're done reflecting on all your personal experiences and matching them with a CanMed's PA role or any other quality you think is relevant to healthcare, you're going to want to develop a framework to answer personal questions. Now, I talked about my framework when it came to answering personal questions back in my PA Supp App video, so I highly recommend that you watch that. I will link it in the description box below again. So this framework, in my opinion, is the most important part because this is how you're going to structure your answer in a way that the evaluator is easily going to pick up some meaning from it. So the first thing that you want to do is talk about your experience, talk about what you did, but then I would say the bulk of your answer should be focusing on what you learned from that experience. What did you gain from that experience? That's what the interviewers are most likely interested in seeing, because they want to see your personal growth. And then you want to talk about how you're going to incorporate what you learn, the skill you gain, the knowledge you gain, whatever it is, to your career as a PA. Basically, you want to frame every experience that you have in a way that it's easy for the evaluator to pick out meaning from it. You're giving them what they need, there's a structure to it, you're not just kind of babbling on, and you're interpreting that experience for them. So I talked a lot about how to be strategic when it comes to answering personal questions, and I think throughout the MMI in general, you want to apply this strategy. You really want to try to get into the evaluator's head and think about what you would want to hear if you were evaluating someone, and then use that knowledge to strengthen your answers. Another thing that you want to become really good at when it comes to personal questions is becoming a really good storyteller. You want to make your stories very vivid and enriched. You want to make sure that you give enough details, but also be very concise, so that way the interviewer can actually picture what's going on in their head very easily, because that's what's going to make your experience memorable to the interviewer. The ones that the interviewers can actually picture in their head, the ones that they can have connection to, those are the ones that are going to stick out. So I would say just practice becoming a very good storyteller. Again, keep them concise, because you also want to focus on what you learn, but you want to make sure that your ability to storytell is very vivid. And how you do that is just being specific. So for example, if you grew up a dancer, how many years did you dance? Things like that, that kind of allow the interviewer to have a more robust picture in their head about the things that you're describing. Another big thing that I highly recommend you guys practice is talking about things that you didn't do well or times that you made mistakes. So for every positive personal question I would practice, I always flipped it into a negative personal question, and I would practice that negative version next. So for example, if I came across a practice question that said, talk about a time that you were a good leader, I would practice that. But then the next practice question I would do would be, tell me about a time when you weren't a good leader. You really want to get comfortable talking about the times when you didn't do something well, you made a mistake, or you did the wrong thing, you made the wrong decision. That might be done to try to throw you off. You know, no one wants to talk about the things that they didn't do well in an interview. You always want to put your best foot forward. So talking about these times when you didn't do that can be really nerve-wracking for people. So you want to get comfortable doing that before the MMI. And when it comes to these negative kinds of questions, you always want to be honest about a negative experience you had. Talk about that mistake that you made. Then you want to talk about what you learned from making that mistake. Did you learn that it's important to manage your time better? And how are you going to apply that to being a good PA? So last but not least, I'm going to talk a little bit about quirky questions. So these are the random questions that have absolutely no relevance to anything, and I think they're maybe just put in there just to see how you react and how you handle it. So these are things like, you know, if you had a superpower, what superpower would you want? Or what'd you have for breakfast? In these questions, I really think that they're just trying to see how well you're able to keep your composure and how well you're able to speak. So again, just practicing answering questions randomly is going to help you tackle these things, because there's really no way to expect them. I would say quirky questions are a really, really great time to showcase the unique things about you. For example, with the breakfast question, maybe you have like a cultural food that you really like to eat, and you can talk about that. Maybe you could talk about preparing the food with your family, what that means to you, what that time means to you with your family. All of these quirky questions, I think, are unique ways to get a little bit more out of you that doesn't necessarily have to do with healthcare or with school or with career. Because you want to remember, these interviewers actually want to see a person. They want to see that you are a human being, you're well-rounded. Yes, you have a passion for healthcare, but you also have many other things going on in your life that make you you. And the interview is the perfect time to showcase that. So that's it for this one. I hope that helped. Don't be afraid to leave me a comment. I get back to you guys fairly quickly. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.